I'm Anita Murjani, and one of the things that's close to my heart, which I believe the world needs more of, is compassion. And also, to go with that, we need more empathy, sensitivity, and love. And of course, let's throw joy into that mix too. We're going through really strange times right now. And what I've noticed is that the messages that are coming at us, whether it's from mainstream media, social media, generally from the world at large, the messages seem to be very fear-based. And because we are now in this kind of fear-based state where people are worried and concerned, they're concerned about the pandemic and so on, what this does is it puts us in fight or flight, which actually makes us very divisive and angry sometimes towards our fellow human beings. Everybody's just doing their best. And that's why I wanted to remind people that what's missing right now is compassion, empathy, love for our fellow human beings. And so I make it my mission to keep spreading that and sharing that. I actually make it a point to not share fear-based messages at all. And because there's enough people doing it already. Even when people tell me that I need to be more realistic, this is real, it's okay. There's enough people doing it. I'm here to spread love and compassion and empathy, and I think that more of us should be doing that. And so this is my reminder for you to do that. And also, of course, this is a good time to spread and share joy and happiness. So thank you for listening and tuning in, and I wish you all the best. Love you guys. Bye.
Good morning. We thank our title sponsor, Celebrite Media, for the wholehearted support. Welcome to the first session of the third International Festival of Spiritual India. We now begin the keynote talk, Mental Peace and Health Through Yoga. All the riches in the world may not bring the happiness that we seek to lead our lives. What we really need is good health, which in turn brings mental peace that we need to live our lives satisfactorily. Let us understand the Guru Mantra of how the age old yoga practice can lead us to our goal by none other than Yogacharya Dr. Ananda Balayogi Bhavanani. Yogacharya Dr. Ananda Balayogi Bhavanani is director of the Center for Yoga Therapy Education and Research and professor of yoga therapy at the Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth University, Pondicherry. He is also chairman of the International Center for Yoga Education and Research at Anand Ashram, Pondicherry, India, and Yoganjali Natyalayam, the premier institute of yoga and Carnatic music and Bharatnatyam in Pondicherry. He is the son and successor of the internationally acclaimed yoga team of Yoga Maharishi Dr. Swami Geetanand, Giri Guru Maharaj, Yogacharini, Kalai Mamani Amaji, Srimati Meenakshi Devi Bhavanani. A fellow of the Indian Academy of Yoga, he has authored 19 DVDs and 23 books on yoga, as well as published more than 250 papers, compilations, and abstracts on yoga and yoga research in national and international journals. He has been invited to talks, public events, workshops, and retreats, and been a major presenter at yoga conferences across the globe. He is currently a member of numerous expert committees of the Ministry of Ayush. He is also EC member and director publications of the Indian Yoga Association and board of directors of the Council for Yoga Accreditation International. We invite Yogacharya Dr. Bhavanani to begin his keynote talk.
Dhanyavadaha. Thank you so much, Renu and the whole team who are supporting my dear Manjari for this International Festival of Spiritual India. It is a great pleasure to be with all of you today and share some thoughts on mental peace and health through yoga. I begin by invoking the Guru Parampara, whose benevolent grace enables us to be the best version of ourselves. Om Tadparamparaye Vidmahe Jnanalingeshwaraya Dhimahi Tanno Guru Prachodayate. Om Yoga Maharshi Dr. Swami Geetananda Giri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Puduvai Kalaimamani Puduvai Shakti Ammaji Meenakshi Devi Bhavanani Guru Mata Ki Jai. Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. Human beings are a manifestation of the divine. Each and every one of us is a drop of that infinite ocean that is the cosmic consciousness of the divine itself. Yet, as we start to have a separate existence, as we start to have that sense of I-ness, me-ness, and we fall into limitation. We fall into a structure where we feel limited, and that we think, thanks to our ignorance, which is called avidya, that we are the big cheese, forgetting that we are just a reflection of the divine consciousness. As we move away from our divine nature, which is our primary nature, as we move away from it, what happens? We start to split. And with that split starts pain and suffering. Dukkha starts from the pain and suffering that comes from the split. And why do we split? Maharishi Patanjali in the Yoga Darshana tells us, Tasya hetu avidya. Avidya, or ignorance of the reality, makes us to start think that we are separate than the cosmos. My beloved father and guru, Yoga Maharishi, Dr. Swami Geetananda Giri Guru Maharaj, used to tell us the first disease is the sense of duality, separation. The first disease is Dvaitam, where you feel separate from the universe in which you live. You feel separated from the universe. You lose connectivity. And because of losing the connectivity with your essential real nature, you start to fall away from it. And then from that avidya comes asmita, the sense of me, I am me. And the moment you have that sense of me, well, the rest of the cascade is going to be there. Because ignorance of the reality leads us to identify with the limited ego, which is called ahankara or asmita. And that limited self-identity that we have created, remember, it is a created self-identity, starts to have likes and dislikes. Raga, dvesha, raga, dvesha. So the raga is pulling you on one direction, dvesha is pulling you in the other direction, and both are stretching you thin until, if you are not careful, you break. And the moment you break, you have no mental peace and you have no more health. That is the topic of this first session of the International Festival of Spiritual India 2022. Mental peace and health through yoga. So, as you can guess by now, it all starts from the sense of separatedness. Dvitiyam. From the Dvitiyam, that sense of separation, we start to forget who we are. I like to often tell many of my students that we are the divine with amnesia. We have forgotten who we are. Maharishi Patanjali reminds us that we are the same Ishvara, the cosmic consciousness, that same Ishvara, Purusha, but we have forgotten it, and hence we are bound by the klesha and karma. The kleshas, which are the inborn afflictions of our psyche, starting with ignorance, avidya, asmita, that sense of egoism, and that I am me. And because of that, raga, dvesha, the pairs of opposites, the dvandvas that pull us apart and tear us apart, tear us into pieces, so that we lose our mental peace. And on top of this, the desire to survive at any cost. Abhinivesha klesha. Abhinivesha klesha is the desire to survive at any cost, which means that I don't care what happens to the rest of the planet as long as I am left standing. Now that is abhinivesha. And that is based on fear. Today, during the pandemic, along with the pandemic of COVID, we have the fear psychosis. That is also a pandemic. The fear psychotic pandemic leading to a mental health pandemic that is just starting to come to the surface. All of this is coming from the kleshas. Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhiniveshaha. Kleshaha, says Maharishi Patanjali. These kleshas, they are the hindrances because they have distorted our perspective. They have distorted our perspective of who we truly are. And because of the kleshas, we start to fall into habitual patterns, which are the samskaras. We fall into tendencies, which are the vasanas. And the samskaras and vasanas, along with the klesha, create karma. The action-reaction, cause and effect spiral that we get stuck onto. Going round and round and round, being busier than ever and never getting off and never getting any place. Doing the same thing again and again and hoping for a different outcome, well, that is the definition of insanity. If you want a different outcome, do things differently. But we want to do the same thing and have a different outcome, well, nature doesn't allow that. Samskara vasana complex with the kleshas, klesha moola karma shaya. Where is this accumulated karma shaya? All the karmic baggage. Where does it all come from? The kleshas. They are the root. Klesha moola karma shaya. And that is why it leads to drishta adrishta janma vedaniyaha, the suffering in the known and the unknown lifetimes. So, the divine, Ishvara, Purusha, once bound by the kleshas, creates karma, and the klesha and karma keep us so busy, we lose track of who we truly are, and we forget the purpose for which we are here. This is why my beloved father and Guru Swamiji used to tell, health and happiness are your birthright as a human being. Health and happiness are your birthright. Liberation, moksha, mukti, kaivalya, nirvana is your goal. And stop not till you reach that goal. Going step by step, yoga, pade, pade, yoga, step by step, attaining that highest liberation. That highest liberation by the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. And that is where yoga empowers the individual to take responsibility for one's own health and happiness. If you want to be healthy, well, as my father would say, do healthy things. If you want to be happy, do happy things. Makes perfect logic, perfect sense. It is in common sense. But the problem is common sense is long dead and buried. So people want to do unhealthy things and be healthy. They want to do unhappy things and be happy. Again, remember the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. If you do unhealthy things, you will reap unhealth, ill health, disease. And if you do healthy things, you reap health. And this is what we need to understand. Health and happiness are our birthright. Moksha, mukti, nirvana, kaivalya, liberation is our goal. So coming back, when we talk about health, health is not just the absence of disease or infirmity. It is a state of well-being, well-being, wellness. And thanks to our mentor, Professor Seduraman sir, the former Vice Chancellor of Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth, we have a modern term that goes with this, which is called salitogenesis. Salitogenesis, that is a focus on health and wellness, well-being, rather than pathogenesis, that is a focus on disease. The more you focus on disease, the more you produce disease. The more you focus on health, the more you produce health. The choice is yours. Which of the paths are you going to make clear and walk? Because where the mind goes, the energy flows, and where the energy flows, manifestation will occur. So someone focusing on my hand is hurting, is strengthening the principle of hurt. But if you say, may my health or my hand become better, may there be wellness in my hand, you are now inducing a sense of health, well-being through a salutogenic approach. And this is where this movement from pathogenesis to salutogenesis is a paradigm shift that can only occur through the practices and the principles of yoga. Because yoga is not about what you do with the body. It is not what you do with the mind. It is what you do with every component of your existence. In yoga, we call it the Pancha Kosha. You have the physical, anatomical, structural existence. You have the physiological, functional, emotional, vital existence, Pranamaya Kosha. You have the mental, psychological existence called Manomaya Kosha. You have the intellectual, discerning capacity, which is your Vijnanamaya Kosha. And then you have that beautiful Anandamaya Kosha, which is that capacity to understand that we are a drop in the ocean. We are part of the entire society. We are part and parcel of the whole of humanity. We are part and parcel of the whole cosmos. That capacity to expand from the I, the limited I, the finite I, to the unlimited, infinite we. Moving from the I to the we is the journey that we must take in expanding our consciousness from that primitive desire to survive at any cost. Who do you want to survive? The false ego. The divine is surviving, but the false ego is threatened in its existence. Moving out of that threat-based life, which is conditioned living, into an unconditional, expansive life where you start to see how each and every living being is connected to each other. The same breath flows through all the beings. The same energy flows through all the beings. The same aspirations flow through all the beings, because all of us, every living being, is a manifestation of the divine itself. When we move from this Dvitiyam, from that duality, Dvaitam, I am different than you. Today, why do we have war? Because there is a sense of you are different than me. So you are a threat to me. So I must get rid of you so that I will survive. Now, if we move from this you or me, which is competitive. You or me is a competitive, stress-based, fear-based existence. You move from that you or me into the next step, which is you and me, which is mutual coexistence, harmonious, mutual, symbiotic coexistence. And then you grow from that you and me into we. You or me grows into you and me, and that grows into we. As this happens, we start to have a sense of ease, sukham. And with that sukham comes a sense of shantam, tranquility, peacefulness. And automatically mental peace is going to manifest. Because as long as there is a sense of separation, you cannot have mental peace. You will be in pieces, but you will not have peace. Of course, the English word peace is very flawed because it is an explosive sound, pa, pakara, which is peace, which automatically says break them into pieces. Shantam is a much better word because it is very melodious. It is the wellness component, Shantam. Shantam. Yengum Shantam. Yedilum Shantam. Yengum Shantam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Has that beautiful tranquility. And it's, just the ocean is just in a tranquil state. Peace is like peace, peace, and boom, blow people into pieces. And this is why we need to refocus on that. Shantam is a beautiful word. This state of mental wellness, mental well-being, mental wellness is a state of sukham, sukha, which means ease. You are at ease with yourself. As my beloved Ammaji, my mother and Guru, often told us, you have to find that sukha sthanam, that place where you are at ease with yourself, that place where you are comfortable being you. Because the moment you try to be somebody else, you have lost it. The moment you try to be somebody else, you have lost it because dvitiyam, duality. When you are you. Now, this is not an excuse to be a goof off and be a couch potato and do nothing. That is a tamasika attitude. We want a rajasika sattvic attitude that says, may I be the best version of myself that is possible. That type of dynamic self-transformation coming out of self-responsibility is what yoga is striving to bring into each and every one who takes up the life of yoga. When we talk about mental wellness, mental clarity, we have the Bhagavad Gita, which is a yoga shastra, as well as the yoga darshan of Maharishi Patanjali, giving us a beautiful term which is called prasadanam. And Maharishi Patanjali tells us chitta prasadanam. There is a point where there is that mental tranquility, there is placidity, there is ease, there is peace. Chitta prasadanam is a term that Maharishi Patanjali uses. And he advises us, he says, in this world, you are going to find people who are noble. You are going to find people who are not noble. Punya, apunya. You are going to find situations that are sukha. You are going to find situations that are not sukha and are dukkha, suffering. And he tells us, you are going to find all of these situations which are sukha, dukkha, punya, apunya. You are going to find people who are sukha, dukkha, punya, apunya. There will be events that are sukha, dukkha, punya, apunya. And he says, if you get locked into this, you will be living a life that is reactionary, that is reflexive, that is a spinal cord mentality which is instinctive. This instinctive, impulsive living will never give you peace because you're just constantly trying to flay your way through life. And so Maharishi Patanjali tells us, try to have the capacity to grow your vivekam, which is the buddhi. Become a buddhiman manushya, someone endowed with the higher buddhi. Dhiyo yona prachodayat. Let that illumination of the buddhi manifest in all of us so that we can see what we need to do and then we can go about doing it. You need to know what to do. You should want to do it and you have to go about doing it. Ichcha, Shakti, Kriya, Shakti, Jnana, Shakti have to all work together. That is when you are an integrated human being. When all of these processes come together. Maharishi Patanjali tells us, he says, Maitri, Karuna, Mudito, Bekshanam, Sugatukka, Punya, Apunya, Vishayanam, Bhavanataha, Chitta Prasadanam. That you can develop that Chitta Prasadanam, which is a state of mental peace, mental ease and wellness by adopting 4 attitudes, Chatur Bhavana. Sometimes these are called Brahma Vihara in the Buddhist tradition also. There's a parallel there. Maitri, friendliness, to be developed towards the sukha. When you find people, events, places and things that are sukha, that are at ease, have a sense of friendliness. Maitri with the sukha. When you find people, places, events and things that are dukkha, that are suffering, that are in pain, adopt the attitude of karuna. Have compassion, empathy, and automatically you have clarity. See, when there is ease, you have chosen the attitude of friendliness and you have mental clarity, mental peace. When you find dukkha, you choose karuna. Again, chitta.
Friends, we have a technical glitch. So please be patient and hang on. We are coming back to you soon.
Sorry about that internet connection. We just had a sudden electrical block here, and so I'm back with you live again. I apologize for this, but it's beyond my capacity. Coming back. Maitri Karuna Mudito Pekshanam Sukadukka Punya Punya Vishayanam Bhavanatah Chitta Prasadanam. What beautiful teachings from Maharishi Patanjali. When you want that Chitta Prasadanam, when you want that mental clarity and mental ease and peace and wellness, you need to choose your attitude wisely. Choosing your attitude wisely involves using your discernment, the buddhi. Because without buddhi, you cannot make a choice. And that choice is made. Is that a situation where I need to adopt the attitude of Maitri? Is it an opportunity for me to practice karuna, compassion? Then there are people who are punyavan, people who are living a noble life, people who are striving to live in tune with dharma. Here the term punya means those who are striving to live a life in tune with dharma. Those people, what do you need to do? You need to cheer them on. You have to say, come on, come on, come on. You have to cheer on those who are striving for the good life. And at the same time, there will be those who are striving to do the opposite, either out of ignorance or out of, desire to get back at you. There will be those who are pulling you away, those who are trying to pull you off the path. Those negative influences, Patanjali says, have upekshanam, indifference. As Swami Vivekananda used to tell us, so beautifully he has said that. He said, when the elephant walks through the marketplace and the dogs bark at it, the elephant doesn't bark back at the dogs. The elephant just majestically strides through that marketplace. Well, can you have that capacity to move through the marketplace of the world? With all those who criticize you, all those who are trying to pull you off the path or push you off the path, those apunya influences, can you develop upekshanam? Because when we develop upekshanam towards that, we will have chitta prasadana. So maitri towards the sukha, karuna towards the dukkha, towards the punya have mudita, and towards the apunya have upekshanam. Maitri karuna mudito pekshanam sukha dukkha punya punya vishayanam bhavanatah chitta prasadanam. What beautiful teachings Maharishi Patanjali has given us. These are not teachings to just be memorized and recited. They are teachings to be lived. These are the teachings of yoga that enable that mental peace. Because if your mental peace is lost, automatically your body will be influenced negatively. It is called the mind-body connection. Today, the Western world calls it mind-body medicine, as if it's something new. Mind-body medicine is very new these times. Psychosomatic medicine. Oh, somatic, psychosomatic, mind-body. Baba, this has been around for thousands of years in India. 5,000 years ago, at least 5,000. Okay? At least 5,000 years ago, we have the Yoga Vashishta teachings, where sage Vashishta teaches Lord Rama about Adija Vyadi and Anadija Vyadi. The Adi, when it is imbalanced, can create a Vyadi. Vyadi is disease. Disease will manifest because the Adi. What is the Adi? That split that has occurred, where you feel that you are separate from the universe in which you live. When you realize we are that universe, we are the ocean in a drop, and the drop has everything that the ocean has. When we realize that, at that moment, that Adi Vyadi connection is cut, and the Vyadi doesn't occur. And this is why it is not about, is there a yoga technique to work with hypertension? Is there a yoga practice for cancer? No. It is about set right. You have to set right the primary disease. What is the primary disease? Dvaitam, Dvidiyam, that duality. You have to set right that. You have to go back to the cause, root cause analysis. Again, Maharishi Patanjali tells us, what does he give us? Beautiful Chatur model. Chatur Vyuha model is there. The Chatur Vyuha model is amazing. You know what the Chatur Vyuha model is telling us? There is Heya, there is Hetu, there is Hana, and there is Upaya. What is Heya? Heya is all the suffering. The Vyadi, the disease, the Dukkha, Tapatraya, all of that is the Heya that is going on. What is the Hetu? The cause of it. What is the cause? Tasya hetu avidya. Remember, we started with that. Ignorance of the reality, confusing what is real and unreal. That is where you have then created that false self-identity. I like to call it the mal-identification syndrome. Everybody knows a malabsorption syndrome in the digestive tract. Mal-identification syndrome. We have identified to something that is not us. And we wanted to survive at any cost with all its likes and dislikes. No wonder we are a mess. We have to go back, find out who we truly are. Retrace our path. Retracing the path, it is called Prati Prasava. Prasava means to be born. Prati Prasava is involution. The gunas are going away from the source. The guna vrittis are going against. They are going away from the source. They are going out. What do you want? Guna vritti virodacha. You want to go back to the source, retracing your way. Prati Prasava. And at that point, you start to realize who you are. And you're like, oh my God, I was so worried about this. We all have these experiences in life. Something that worried us when we were a small kid, now it doesn't worry us because, we look back at it. We are very strong in hindsight. I think one thing I would wish from God, if I ever had a chance to ask God, is please bless humans with foresight, not hindsight. Because hindsight, everybody is wise in hindsight. Oh, you could have done it that way. You could have done it this way. Why you didn't do it? I'm like, seriously, when it was happening, where were your brains? Where were your brains when it was happening? The same place my brains were, and that is nowhere. We are always so wise in hindsight. If we can start to realize in foresight. That is why my father's words. If you want to be happy, do happy things. If you want to be healthy, do healthy things. That is the foresight, that do what you do today to create what you want tomorrow. The destiny of tomorrow is created with the free will of today. My choices today, my free will choices today will influence my destiny tomorrow. The choices I make now are the seeds of the future plant and the tree that will then bear fruits. Adi Vyadi. That is where we start to realize that we have to put back the pieces together. We have to realize that we have become piecemeal. Collect the pieces, start to put them together, and then try to create that wholesomeness. That wholesomeness is wellness. That wellness is what our culture has given us in the beautiful concept Swasth. Swasth is such a beautiful concept of wellness and health. Because it is not just looking at one part of health, it is looking at multidimensional. And Acharya Shushruta, again more than 2000 years ago, long before modern science was even created. People today say, where is the scientific proof of yoga? I'm like, Baba, you're asking science to prove something that is, hundreds of times older than it. We don't have the technology, but we are slowly trying. But just because we cannot find something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. We need to go step by step in research to understand the greatness of these traditions. But we must remember, these traditions are much more old. Their concepts are universal concepts. So don't just negate them saying, oh, where is the scientific proof? Well, the science will catch up with it. The science will catch up with these teachings in time to come. So coming back, when we are looking at health, Acharya Shushruta, he talks about sama. And that is the concept that yoga is also looking at. Sama. And all our constitutes of the human being need to be in equilibrium, balanced. Samadosha, sama agnischa, samadhatu. So your doshas, vata, pitta, kapha have to be balanced. Samadosha, sama agni, all the agni, the jata agni, all the pancha mahabhuta agni, the dhatu agnis, all these have to be balanced. Samadosha, sama agni, and samadhatu, all the sapta dhatu, they have to be in a state of harmonious balance. That is where health starts. Samadosha, sama agnischa, samadhatu, and then all the toxic materials, the mala, the waste products have to be eliminated efficiently. Because if you don't eliminate the waste product, they are going to poison you. They are going to poison you. So we don't want to be poisoned by our own negativity. So you have to make sure it is eliminated. This is why in yoga we have Navavidha Shuddhi, 9 aspects of cleansing. Mala Shuddhi is one of them. Prana Shuddhi, Mana Shuddhi, Atma Shuddhi, Indriya Shuddhi. There are all these Shuddhis are there because you want to purify yourself. All the mala, all the toxic material that is not you, that is poisoning you, preventing you from being you, has to be eradicated. Tirumula, the Tamil Siddha in Tirumandaram talks of 3 types of mala. Mummalam. And he says, Anavam, Kanmam, Mayai. The sense of ego itself is a mala. Anavam, Kanmam, the karma is a mala according to him. And Maya is also a mala. What a beautiful teaching he gives. The Saiva Siddhanta teachings of South India. 3,000 verses of the Tirumandaram by Saint Tirumula, one of our great Siddhas of this part of the world. The Mummalam, Malakriya. So coming back, all the 3 samas, Samadosha, Sama Agni and Samadhatu. Then there has to be Malakriya. Then the most important part is not just what you are constituted of. It's not all the waste products alone. You are something more. There has to be something which goes with your mana, something with your indriya, and something which goes with your atma. And that is why the beautiful shloka goes, Samadosha, Sama Agnischa, Samam Dhatu, Malakriya, Prasanna, Atma, Indriya, Mana, Swast, Itya, Vidiyate. That Swast has to have Prasanna, Atma, Indriya, Mana. Your Atma, your connection to your ultimate self has to be in Prasanna. There has to be a tranquility, a peaceful, harmonious existence, a clarity. Remember, Chitta Prasadanam, something similar to that. Prasanna, Atma, Indriya. Your senses cannot be in turmoil. If your senses are in turmoil, if your self is in turmoil, and if your mind, mana, is in turmoil, you cannot be healthy. What a beautiful concept of health, way beyond any concept that you can think of. Prasanna, Atma, Indriya, Mana. And that is why that swast is the wellness, is the health that yoga is striving to provide to us. Now, let's go to the modern definition, World Health Organization. They talk of health as a state of well-being. What type of well-being? Physical well-being, then mental well-being, then social well-being, and then they also talk of spiritual well-being. Nowadays, people like to add financial well-being also to it. So, a state of physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being. That is what WHO says. Spirituality came in much later. There's still, there are definitions that still don't include spirituality, and then there's a lot of committees who have brought in spirituality. Because as I said in my inauguration, that religion and spirituality, people are very confused. Religion is a structure. Spirituality is an experience. So what happens? Look at the WHO. Physical, okay? What does Maharishi Patanjali give us in Ashtanga Yoga? He gives us Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhaya, Ashtau Angani. Beautiful 8 limbs, 8 components of the wholesomeness of yoga itself. And if you look at that, Yama, Niyama, what are they giving us? Social health, social well-being. Because when you work on the Yama and Niyama, you are relating to yourself and relating to others. And this beautiful, harmonious relationship with the self and with others, who you realize are basically nothing but you, that creates a sense of social well-being. The asana pranayama, the practices of the asanas and the pranayama, those are the practices that are enhancing our body and its functionality. The integrated cohesiveness of the body is brought about by asana pranayama. Let us say physical well-being. So yama niyama for the social well-being, asana pranayama as components facilitating physical well-being. Then comes pratyahara and dharana. Pratyahara is the capacity of the mind to withdraw from the engagement of the senses with the sensory objects. People call it sensory withdrawal. No. Senses are still engaged with the objects, but the mind has withdrawn from the engagement of the senses with the sensory objects. The indriya and the artha, that is being disconnected by the mind. The mind has pulled the plug away from it. The computer is there, the plug has been pulled, falls flat. It's as simple as that. Pratyahara. When you start to come inward, at that point, you are moving away from the sensory turmoil, the sensory emotional turmoil that is there. You are moving inward and you start to have that beautiful wellness that is happening at the level of the mind now. And then the mind which was sarvartha, going in all directions, scattered mind, becomes one-pointed. Sarvartha eka ghatayo. The mind that was all scattered becomes one-pointed. What a beautiful, powerful mind it becomes. And that is where pratyahara and dharana start to enhance the mental wellness, mental well-being. And then dhyana. When you start to move into those deep states of meditation. Meditation is not just sitting with your eyes closed. That is sitting with your eyes closed. It's good for you. Okay, it's good for you to sit with your eyes closed for 20 minutes. It will help you a lot, but don't call it meditation. Don't call it dhyana. Dhyana is a state where there is that uninterrupted flow. Pratyaya ekatanata. You have focused your mind. You have bound your mind, your cognitive process to one place, one thing, one object. And now it is a continuous flow, just like the oil flowing through the wick to the flame. That continuous ekatanata is happening. And at that point, dhyanam occurs, where you and the object you are contemplating become one. There's that oneness. And then when that is taken further, and all the meanings, all the emotions, all the memories, everything is wiped clean. Swarupa shunyamiva samadhihi. That essence alone remains. This is the peak of spiritual health and well-being. Dhyana and samadhi enhance the spiritual wellness that we are looking at. So already this model has been given by Maharishi Patanjali thousands of years ago. How you can be healthy, how you can be at ease with yourself, how you can be an integrated human being who has that wholesomeness, the wholesomeness which is your Purna Swarupa, which manifests swast. That swast that is manifested, the Chitta Prasadanam that is manifested. And the same message given by Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna tells us, you have to transcend the dualities. Raga Dvesha Vimuktaistu. Because otherwise what is happening? You are pulled apart. You are stretched thin and you break. Why? Raga and Dvesha. Too much of like is also a problem. Too much of hate is also a problem. You need a balance between both and you need to transcend both. Raga Dvesha Vimuktaistu. He doesn't say, oh, go on to the Raga side, all will be healthy. No. Raga, too much of Raga is also a problem. Too much of Dvesha is also a problem because you have been pulled off your Sukhastanam. You have been pulled off your balanced and you have moved from Sukha to Dukkha. This is why that balanced state, Raga, Dvesha, Vimuktaistu, Vishayan, Indriyascha. You have disconnected from the sensory engagement to the sensory objects, a state of Pratyahara and Dharana. And he says, Atma Vashye. You are satisfied with yourself. I think one of the key elements, if you want to be happy and healthy, if you want to have mental peace, and if you want to have health, I think the key element is the niyama called santosha. Santosha basically means contentment. When we start to have contentment as an attitude, oh my God, life changes. Because the modern marketing industry is hell-bent on making us discontent. Because if you are content, I cannot sell you anything, right? So I have to say, oh, how can you be content with toothpaste that doesn't have salt in it? So then you have salt, salt in your toothpaste and you are happy about it. Because you were made discontent that your toothpaste didn't have salt in it. You don't have the latest phone, the model that came out yesterday. You are still using the model that came up on January 10th this year. Oh my God, how can you be happy? Discontent is being bred. No wonder we are diseased. No wonder we have a mental pandemic. Because the moment you start to develop santosha, the moment you have a sense of contentment, it is not tamasika contentment that, okay, lie down and, oh my God. No, you are doing what you need to do. But whatever comes, you're accepting with grace. Do your best and leave the rest. Whatever comes, you're saying thank you. You are grateful. Gratitude, the highest attitude to the universe for giving you that experience. People come into your life, give you an experience, be thankful for it. People go out of your life and give you an experience, be thankful for it. Something happens, be thankful. Something doesn't happen, be thankful it didn't happen. Because we don't know the bigger picture. We are still that drop. We don't know what that ocean is seeing. We are still on the earth. We are not in the satellite view. We don't have that satellite view yet that the cosmos has, that Ishvara has. And that is why when we develop contentment, it is a dynamic state. It is not a tamasic, dull state of contentment, which is not contentment, it is escapism. Contentment is doing your best and leaving the rest. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Ma karma phalahetu burma te sangosta karmani, says Lord Krishna. And that has to be yogasta kul karmani sangam. Every action you do in your life should be in the spirit of yoga. Yogasta kul karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya. Because there will be siddhi, there will be asiddhi, there will be raga, there will be dvesha, there will be success, there will be failure. Siddhya, siddhayo, samabhutva, samatvam yoga uchyate. Having that state of equilibrium, sama, bhava, sthita prajna, that is the place where you are absolutely healthy. Because you are at ease, you are at peace, and you are in that harmonious state of balance. That is the state that is being suggested. Raga dvesha vimukta vishayan indrayascharan atma vashye vidayatma prasadam adhigachati. That same concept, prasadam, is said by Yogeshwar Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Chitta prasadanam by Maharishi Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra that gives us the Yoga Darshana. These are the teachings we need to live through the practice of Ashtanga Yoga, working on all the domains of health and wellness, working through Kriya Yoga, Tapa, Swadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhana, disciplined living, doing what you need to do even if it is tough. Tapa, Swadhyaya, your internal GPS, finding out whether you are on track or whether you have gone off track because of the ego pushing you off. Swadhyaya. And after that, Ishvara Pranidhana. You have done your best. You have checked whether you are in the right direction. And once you know that you have done your best in the right direction, you give over to something higher. Ishvara Pranidhana, and accept whatever is given by Ishvara, by the divine, by the cosmos itself. This is the message of yoga. This is the message that yoga gives us. If we are to be healthy, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and yes, if all of that happens, financial health will also manifest. Because if your body is not healthy, your financial health will suffer. If your mind is unhealthy, of course, it suffers. And if your spirit is unhealthy, if you are not at ease with the world in which you live, how can you be financially productive? So all of these are supported by the theories, the principles, the philosophy, the psychology of yoga and the practices of yoga, be it the yama niyama, the asana, the pranayama, pratyahara, the dharana and the dhyana, be it the bandhas, the mudras, the shatkarmas, it doesn't matter what it is. All of them are geared towards ashuddhikshaye, removing all that is not us, so that the inner illumination, jnana deepti, will glow. And at that point, we have the highest wisdom where we can know what we need to know so that we can do what we need to do to be who we need to be. I would like to end my talk at this point.
Thank you, sir, for giving us such a transparent perspective to comprehend life in a new way, and thank you for being our guest at IFSI. We will begin our next conversation, Walking the Path of Yoga, at 11:45 a.m. after a break of 15 minutes.